25 years, yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mathewson.
Alyssa DeVille, you're looking more like your mother every day. I'm glad she moved back. I didn't think she would. When she went away to college, she said, I ain't coming back. I'm glad she did so well and could raise a family.
When she told me about the video that they made for the 25th anniversary, I thought it would be great to make a holodisc for the 50th.
Our anniversary is next week. You're on the same time frame they were 25 years ago. But you're in luck. Some people are visiting for the anniversary, some friends of your mother's. And they're inside. You can get some stories on your mother.
Oh, she tells me she was the perfect little angel.
Hi, guys.
Hello. How are you?
Alyssa DeVille. This
Hello.
is Brett Canaria, Town
How
Supervisor.
you doing?
Great.
That's good.
Jennifer Reederdahl.
Hi.
Hello.
Maybe you've seen some of her work. It's Heather Clay Smith.
I've heard a
In
lot
from,
about you.
you live in LA now?
Yeah, LA.
Yeah,
I'm a
LA.
psychiatrist.
Yeah. And Lynn Reynolds Pierce.
Hello, from the LA law firm.
Of course.
Of Boston branch.
Yeah, of course.
I'll write that down later.
We're going to be going to the conference room in the new wing. You haven't seen it yet. Brett, he helped work on the consistory with it, and the other three haven't been back. You remember when we built that other wing? And,
Right.
did all those fundraisers, subs, and T-shirts for raising money for the youth room.
Yeah, I remember the youth room. They attracted like half the teenagers in Clifton Park.
Which way is it?
We'll go down the stairs here, and we'll go out the back way.
All right.
You should be asking some of these people something about your mother.
Yeah, do you have anything good?
I hear your mother's been having some side effects of listening to all that Poison music when she was a teen.
Such as my last name.
So, Alyssa, have you met Pastor Bob yet?
No, I haven't. He baptized me. I haven't had the chance to meet him in person, but I'm hoping maybe this 25th anniversary tape will let me see a little bit more into his personality.
He's gonna look a lot younger in this videotape.
We're all going to look a lot younger in this videotape.
Oh, come on, I haven't aged a day.
Oh, sure, Tom.
If we're all ready, this tape was loaned to me by Mike Esmond.
Mike.
Remember Mike?
Yes, he...
You won an Emmy Award last year.
Oh, that's right, on rock music. Music from the 2000 till today.
Yeah.
You ever seen one of these machines?
It's been 25 years. We started visibly at 10 a.m. on this Sunday in 19...
What is that? No, I can't. I stopped and I thought it was gone. And all of a sudden the blood kept pouring out of my nose. I was like, great.
That's good. Keep that on tape.
Well, my memory is of how the children had to dress in old clothes because it was an old building, and they came out with black hands when we picked them up after church.
Well, the one thing I remember the most, I believe, is the dirt that had to be cleaned up on the Saturday before we could have the Sunday service. You could sweep and sweep and sweep that floor, turn around, and be just as dirty as when you started. A lot different than we've got now.
But of course, it was an old building, and the snowplows were downstairs. Although we started 25 years ago in April, wintertime came, we were still there. And when the trucks started up, you couldn't hear them, and you could certainly smell them because they were diesel trucks starting to go out and plow the roads.
Thinking about it this morning, and I think the biggest thing I remember were those oak folding chairs we sat on. Those were the most uncomfortable chairs I ever sat on in my life.
And you were how old?
6. You remember uncomfortable chairs, Diane?
I remember having to fold those chairs up, fold the chairs and tables, everything up at the end of the service and put them all back in this big long closet that we used to go in all the way to the back of. And I was 9.
I think I remember pretty much the same things that Diane did, because of the fact that
He was 7, now he are a deacon.
We started with 91 people in attendance.
I can remember all the effort that went in before that first service. We put things in mailboxes for I don't know what big an area. Nothing like it is today, folks. But it was a growing area, and we were trying to get people to come, and we had 91, so that was pretty good, I think, for the first service.
And just before that first Sunday, there were 6 families that found each other. Some were even identified while greeting at a neighboring church. You lived in Clifton Knolls for the most part, and Harold and Helen pulled you together informally. There were the Joslins, the Debevoises, the Bibbs, Grahams, and 2 families not here any longer, the Pascals and the Remscheids. The Schenectady classis was eyeing Clifton Park, and together the action accelerated.
New in Clifton Knolls, and we were going to Shenandoah Methodist.
We were ready to
We had
join.
been in Woodlawn Reformed and been very, very active in Woodlawn Reformed. And there were no Reformed churches. We, in the neighborhood, learned of other people that were in Reformed churches, like Al Bibb and his wife were in Niskayuna Reformed. And the Debevoises were in First Reformed in Albany, and the Remscheids were also in First Reformed in Schenectady. The Pascals, where were they?
East Greenbush.
East Greenbush Reformed Church. And it was, that started the thing going a little bit.
And that's the guy that was greeting at a Methodist church and conning people not to go there but to join his church.
Everett Graham identified an associate pastor in his own Bellevue church, and a thinner and greener pastor was called and came with a musician wife and a 10-day-old son asleep in a carriage at the end of the piano.
One thing that wasn't mentioned, I remember when we were trying to decide on a minister, we met in the Graham's family room of their house. Was it 6 couples or 7 couples?
6 couples.
6 couples. And Bob and Carol came, and we kind of interviewed them and questioned them and so forth. And then they had to leave, so we could decide if he was the one we wanted for a minister.
Growing up in Muskegon, Michigan, I cannot ever remember a time when I did not think about being a pastoral minister. From early years as a little boy, I used to think about this because I would see the minister when our whole family was sitting in the church in worship, both Sunday morning and Sunday evening. And with that in mind, I worked my way through high school and through college, pre-enrolling in seminary when I went to college. During college, there came another thought, and there were 3 things I said I would never do as a pastor. One of those 3 things was to start a new church. Now I look back, and here I've been for 25 years. Yes, Carol did play that April morning, needing a pillow for comfort on a hard bench.
The very first Sunday, which was April '65, I was in the hospital when Bob says, I really don't have a piano player for Sunday morning service. Will you do it? And I said, well, if I can sit on the bench, I will play for the first service. To tell you why I'm here, I should go back to my childhood, where I grew up in a Reformed church in Iowa. As a child, I would put my dolls on the steps so that I could stand at the bottom and direct them, because someday I wanted to be a choir director in a church. By the time I was 12 years old, I said I wanted to marry a minister. So as it happened, that did happen, but people say I wouldn't have dated Bob if he wasn't going to be a minister, but that's not the case. It just happened to come out right.
Then there were many exciting firsts. Land was acquired in March before our first service. There was the first baptism in May. The little guy in the carriage at the end of the piano set the high standard for crying at baptism that no one has ever since attained. The first funeral was in July. Octogenarian Edward Frank was there at the first day. The parsonage was completed by the end of the summer. In the fall of 1965 was the first church school session, and the youth choir started.
I kept telling the consistory and the committee at that time that you should get somebody else, because I didn't think it was a very good idea to have the minister's wife as the choir director and organist, because when the minister moves, you lose all three. So I kept telling them this and telling them that, and they kept saying, well, we'll maybe look for somebody else. Well, that was the first service of 65, and here it is, March of 1990, and I'm still doing this, but not because I don't want to.
There was the first Advent dinner, and having no church building to green, we made Advent wreaths for our homes. And then there was the organization in January, a celebration yet to come in our series of celebrations of recollections and forward-looking events. We built a building, entering it on Easter Sunday in 1967.
I remember way back when our first services were, we were knee-deep in mud out there, and we used to walk on the boards coming in with straw on both sides. And Janice DeYoung was going to be married, and we said, well, we just can't have her going through the mud in her wedding gown, so we put in some forms and laid the sidewalk. And that's how that came about.
When we had plans to build the church, of course we had no money, and we were going to the banks to borrow $100,000, pretty much on faith, because there weren't very many of us, and if you put us all together, we couldn't pay $100,000 in those days. So we went to 2 banks one day and made our presentation for a loan of $100,000. And after we finished, and by the way, I was fairly well acquainted with a lot of bankers in those days. I was in the FBI and handled accounting cases, and therefore knew a lot of bank people, because they would call me when they had a problem about a shortage and so forth. So after we made our presentation, we went back to the FBI office to sit down and sort of discuss how we did and what our hopes were. And it was a warm day. I took my coat off, and I was wearing my gun. And Bob says, "You didn't go to the banks with your gun on, did you?" That's how we got the money.
And I used to have a telephone, 2 telephones on my kitchen wall. One was for Christ Community Church, and the other was mine. I had to figure out which one was ringing.
And we were sitting there one night with the architect trying to decide what to do with the horse barn. The land that we're on was 12 acres of land, originally a horse farm. And about where the present little shed is for the lawn maintenance equipment and the snowplow and so forth was a horse barn. It wasn't in very good shape, but it was a horse barn. And the architect was wondering what to do with it. We all decided it could be used for a storage shed while the building was being built. And somebody said, be ashamed if it burned down. And that night, Everett Graham or Harold Giles and somebody called me to say the horse barn was on fire. And that night it burned to the ground.
It burned to the ground.
The very night we were talking about it burning down, it burned down, and we collected $2,600. Why or who, what started it, but we were very thrilled to have $2,600 towards our new building.
Well, it was just a very exciting time in my life. It was a lot of work, and we used to come over here nights even and work, and every Saturday there was work parties that we would come over here, and everybody would pitch in, and Carol always made those famous cinnamon buns, and oh, it was just an experience that I'm glad I went through, and I enjoyed very much. even though it was a lot of work.
You know where the beams came from for that, the cross, the wood for the cross?
Mhm.
Where'd it come from?
From the store down at the corner of Vicious Ferry Road and Grooms Road.
Yeah.
Harold
Hap Rosen,
Rosen's
who
store.
was a Jewish gentleman, gave
The wood.
big beams to the church, and the architect designed the cross, and Bob with an adze carved the cross as you see it now, and the rope that's around the cross was used to put it in place, and decided it looked like what Jesus was died on the cross with the rope. They left the rope on, so that rope was originally put there to hoist it in place, and the rope was left. And we were all young. Remember, we're going back 25 years ago, and that we were all in our 30s, and now we're a little bit farther removed from our 30s. But it was a good time.
And hopefully maybe with this new addition, some of the people will do some of the work too.
Yep.
25 years ago today, I read the lesson from 1 John. We read it again today to focus again on beginning. On that day, I reminded you that John proclaimed the gospel in loftiest of terms. With John we began. With John we have tried to live. With him we have tried our hand at writing a covenant. It is the aim of Christ's church, that is our name, to take the grand themes of the Bible and deal with them in terms of life today.
The thing we're doing is praising God, and that's why we're up here in the first place.
Mr. and Mrs. Bibb, my sister, belonged to the church, and when we moved back to town, she said, come and visit us. So we did. We were Presbyterian originally, and most Presbyterians came here.
Yeah, because there wasn't one around.
With the special services on Easter and Christmas and Advent, the Advent dinners. The Sunday school program was good. I taught Sunday school for a while.
Number of kids that were around.
And a lot of
still
young
around
children.
today.
And our children knew the children that were going.
Well, I got backed against a wall by Mr. DeYoung. I mean, we all know what that feels like, right? And he asked me to do it, and I said sure. And it was fun. It took a long time. You know, it did a lot of preliminary sketching and kind of things. And I wanted something that was big and bright because it was going to be, you know, the little kids' Sunday school. Well, I did the sketches, and then he approved them. We had talked about wanting one of Jesus with the children. And then the shepherd was one pretty much that we sort of put together, and he approved. Oh yeah, well, if we lived here, we'd be here.
The memories, you know, the Easter dawn service and Regina going down the aisle, that always comes back, you know, all the youth Sunday services. But they're a great bunch of kids. But I look around now and I see you guys who were, you know, wee little Teds when I was doing that before. But the youth group and the choir. These people weren't even thought of.
I remember the young people participating in the Christian pageant at Harold Catel's farm. There would be a Christmas pageant. It was covered by the radio stations and television. And we had, you remember them? And we had the young people that were riding on the horses and with
Donkeys and
the donkeys and everything over at the Cattell farm. And the early service for the young people for Christmas. There was 3 services.
They didn't have that early one.
9:30
The
and
early
10.
one that he has now, they didn't have at that time.
I think it's just, I think it's a great church to bring young people up and how they come back after they grow up and get married, they come back. And we see a lot, as you see now, a lot of people, young people who are now not so young and married and have their own children in
Are
church.
back, yeah.
It doesn't seem possible that a church is that old that we could have children of children who parents started with the church, now have children in the church, grandchildren in the church. Becoming a tradition.
It was important for me coming back into the community to have a sense of belonging again and have an area where, a foundation rather, for Heather to begin her own religious education. I've been very happy to come back and to see the growth in the church the programs that are offered for the children, I think, are really excellent.
I think it's important for young people to develop a sense of spiritual well-being and confidence spiritually. I mean, it's difficult to stray from that. And
we've spoken about
I think it'll,
what I think of
Be a
great
good thing.
influence Pam has had
yes.
with the young
Yeah.
people, and how they have joined together, and the young adult group, which I think is great.
I remember mainly the closeness that I felt when I came in here, and the acceptance that I always felt here, and the community that's part of our name. You know, that's the big things.
What we do in the name of the Lord in and for this community was the gist of his thought. So there emerged the theme, committing to Christ and to community.
My memories of the church, of the strength here at the church, the family here at the church, were strong enough when I moved out of New York to come back here to sort of start a new life. It was something that attracted me with a certain sense of comfort and safety. My parents are retiring soon, and this is sort of my family. The church is my family. It's my strength. It's where I feel very comfortable and safe to be me, even though that's me is a little unorthodox.
Well, my hope for the church then would to continue to bring all types of people, whether they be young working people, and my hope is that everyone feel comfortable here.
Recently you got them? Well, you graduated from college next year.
I think everyone needs to have a faith and a place where they feel comfortable expressing their faith, and that should be the growth and the purpose of the church is to establish that foundation for everyone.
Here we are in Clifton Park, a privileged community. Here we are bearing the name of Christ, committing to Christ and to community.
The community is the church. You know, that's the bottom line. I mean, this is not a country club. This is, and the addition is growth, and growth is healthy, and if with this addition and with this growth we bring in more families, we bring in more kids, it creates a healthier community and healthier kids.
What's next? What does the future hold? I don't know any better than any of you, but it is a question that we should ask. Or the anniversary will be nothing but nostalgia and a memory trip for a very select few. The 25th year should also be for those who started to attend this church this past year, or maybe this very week.
I'm a firm believer, and I think I've made myself vocal enough, that I feel a church without goals is kind of a stagnant church. And I see the addition that we're about to put on here as one of our goals. Now, after that, we've got more goals.
I hope we're going to grow with all the building that continues in the Clifton Park area. You know, I would hope that our own people will invite neighbors to attend or friends to attend, and we will continue to grow over the years.
Goals for the future, just to have a good sound with what we do, to make what we do praise God.
Long term, I probably put my head on a chopping block, but I would like to see us get involved with daycare. I think daycare or nursery school, I think there's a big need for it in Clifton Park. I think it's a very good way that we as a community can reach out into our greater community of Clifton Park.
Lots of growth. We're seeing now more and more young children, which there was a few years there when you didn't see as many young children as you do now, and that's... Well, we've got an average of 19. It's tremendous to see the young children go up front for the story time.
Up front now. It used to be 4 or 5.
And that's very important, to focus on the children.
I think the future of the church will be in good hands.
The times that I share with my best friends are the best times that I've ever had. Friends will go anywhere with you. Friends who really do care. And the times that I've really needed a friend, my best friends have always been there. Whenever I'm down and discouraged, the love of a friend never ends. My life's so much better for having a life of good love and good friends. Wherever my life seems to take me, God knows how to answer my prayer. If I'm needing somebody to talk to, a new friend will somehow be there. Friends will go anywhere with you. Friends share the good and the bad. The times that I share with my best friends are the best times that I've ever had. Friends will go anywhere with you. Friends who really do care. And the times that I really needed a friend, my best friends have always been there.
Is there anything you'd like to say to the congregation of the church now or the future congregation? Any thoughts you'd like to share?
Words of wisdom.
Give money to the building fund.
Alyssa, isn't that your mother's voice?
Bob, you sleeping again?
Carol, I've had the most fantastic dream. You wouldn't believe it.